You're listening to Bellwethers podcast with Matthews Joseph.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into Bellwethers podcast. And it's yet another Monday, and we have a new person today with us. Today we have amazing Grace with us, and most of you guys might know her as the producer of the Tamil version of The Blessing, but some people might also know her as the co-owner of a marketing firm called Netrocon Digital, and also she leads a nonprofit called Royal Kids. So amazing. Thank you so much for being here. It's a true pleasure to have you on this podcast.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, do you mind speaking about yourself in a couple of in a couple of sentences so that our audiences can know you better and know who you are, what you do?
Sure. Born and raised in Chennai, moved to the US about 5 years ago to get my master's. And then I've been involved in missions all my life. My parents started a missions organization in our house. We had a lot of girls at the house. I grew up with 100 girls, day in and day out. We lived together. So that was the nonprofit that I'm currently involved with. So missions is a part of my life versus a job, if I could say that. So I was always there, never wanted to be a part of a business or a for-profit organization, never had a heart for it, never thought anything noble about it. So I think when I got to school here, the Lord started speaking to me. So many crazy scenarios happened, and then I ended up with this company here. I currently am one of the co-partners while building this marketing agency along with some kingdom-minded people who are very, very who've taught me about business and so on. And so I enjoy that journey on building a business that is Christ-centric, while also saying yes to ministry all over again and getting to serve. So that's kind of the nutshell of what I do. I kind of advocate a lot for children in at risk across the world. So I've been actively speaking, engaging, and working with a lot of kids and partner organizations globally, especially in the prayer movement. We believe in raising children worshipers and intercessors versus just giving food and education. That's not where our cause and our vision ends, but it's to raise these children as worshipers and intercessors in a generation that seeks after him and stands in the walls of Jerusalem as watchmen. And I think that's something that I love and I enjoy, and that's something that I do.
Wow, that's just amazing with your vision, what you want to do, what you want, the change that you want to make in this world. That's amazing. And the vision that God has put in your life, that's like amazing, and I must say, and just like your name is like, it's amazing. So and so let's just jump into the questions. So here's my first question. So how has working with nonprofits helped you shape your perspectives?
I think that's where I touched upon, right? Nonprofit to me is more so a lifestyle. I think I was gifted enough to grow into it. In fact, when I was born, my parents already had kids from the leprosy families in the house, so they were the ones who raised me. So it was more so my upbringing. I was more raised by kids in the house versus my parents. So I can never differentiate it outside and inside kind of a world. Missions was life, and it was a part of my living. And I think that communal living is what changed my perspective about life, about what I do and how we do. It was a very we-centric versus I-centric. And I think that's something that I believe was a gift versus something that I went after or sought after. It was a gift to learn to live with people, love people when they come from different backgrounds, when they come from different, different economic situations. It didn't matter. There were kids who would walk into the house and would not know how to communicate. There would be kids who would come in and who would not talk for days because they were abused or things like that. So you grow in love for people because you live in those situations. And I think that was the beauty of it all, and that's how I think majority of my perspective was shaped, to give, to love, to serve, to be around people, um, and just be the hands and feet of Jesus. I think now that I think of it, that's how I would coin it. It's a gift, like I said. It's not something that we pursued, but it was a very God ordained move in all of our lives, and still is, where we get to enjoy working and living, and being around people. And I think that has directly responded to how I do things: giving, serving, inviting people into my home, and being there when somebody needs, and also receiving, because there are so many people who show up at my doorstep today, and being able to receive. And I think that two-way street of just community, people, the we centric conversation that I love about missions.
Yeah, that's just beautiful. The way you just coined it. Giving, receiving. It's just like it's very simple. To serve, and I believe that it costs nothing to serve. It costs nothing to do. Take a glass of water and give it to someone in need. It takes nothing to do something. An action of humanitarian does not take anything. It just takes one step to serve, and that's why I think the greatest example of serving is Jesus, because the one who very much created the whole world, came down and died the worst of the deaths, the serve because and before he died, he served his disciples, his own disciples, the very people that he created. He washed their feet. I mean, the amount of humility that is there, that's amazing, and that humility is what I believe is the propelling factor to serve. Because if you're not humble, you cannot serve. If you have if you're not humble and you have a particular mindset, you won't be able to you won't be able to serve. And I think the first and most important thing to serve is to be humble.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what community living did and does for a lot of people. It puts you in that place where you just humble yourself. And like you said, we read so much in the Bible, but when you start watching people live that life, it starts changing you too. Because now, whatever you've read and whatever you've heard of the gospel, you're starting to see the lives of so many people who are sacrificially serving, living, and giving. And I think that's what I had the chance of, because I get to see so many people do it ahead of me. And I think that's the beauty of missions altogether.
Wow. So let's just jump into our next question. And just because we are talking about nonprofits, I just want to focus on that point. How can people or individuals support nonprofit organizations?
um, I know it sounds cliche, um, um, but I'd say start praying. Prayer is something that would change a lot of nonprofits. um, Here's why: a lot of nonprofits and just people who are serving and sharing the gospel, right, work in really hard conditions. Sometimes we always think, oh, I give and everything changes. I give, there's a good done. Yes, giving changes. Giving helps, giving builds, but there's nothing that prayer can't do. Uh, Day in and day out, people walk into communities that have real strongholds. People walk into communities to serve where they're not welcomed, where they're persecuted, right? There's so much that happens when we walk into these missional communities and we try to serve. And that's why I always say start with prayer. Start with prayer. Be there to be ready to be praying for a child that you want to donate towards. Be ready to be praying for a project that you want to build towards. Because every project, every child that you are going to donate towards needs healing just as much as they need food and education. They also need healing. They also need the love of Jesus. They also need that first touch before their life gets transformed. So often we think, okay, I give them clean water, I give them food and I get them to go to school, you know, their life gets transformed. Yes, it gets transformed, but a lot of these kids that we get to work with come from really harsh backgrounds. They have some rough past, and oftentimes it starts with prayer. And one thing that I always stress is don't worry about where you live. Prayer gets heard from across the world. It doesn't matter. All you need is a heart, compassion, and empathy. That's all you need. That compassion would release the heart of intercession, and it really blesses and speaks into the lives of so many children that I've seen. So start with prayer, and two, generosity. A lot of nonprofits were built because so many people in the past gave. There was a huge giving culture in the previous generation that really built a lot of nonprofits. Giving changes us and it changes people. So, yeah, those are the two things that you can do to support and help.
Yeah, that's just incredible for what you just said. The heart of compassion, and I think that's one of the most important things, because you need to have a real heart of compassion to give or to pray for these people, because I mean I've been to different places in India while I was living there, and I've seen like how hard it is to go to the rural areas of South India or North India, and how crazy it gets when people, they don't even have food, and they actually they thrive for that. They're so hungry, they don't have basic needs, water, shelter, or sanitation, or any others, and I mean, you can give to them, but the giving needs to be coming from a heart of compassion. And I think, again, the best example again here is Jesus, because I believe, like, anything that you want to set your eyes onto, or anything that you want to do, the best example would always be Jesus. The best role model would always be Jesus, coming to leadership, coming to humility, coming to a heart of compassion, coming to ministry and everything. He's like the perfect all in all for, you can use for any circumstance, because he has done all that, and the way he does that is the heart of compassion that he has, the way that he used to talk to people, the way he mingle with them. And it amazes me while I read through the passages in the scriptures, even though we have read all these like 100 times throughout our all the journey of our life. But when we see that, when we see the heart of compassion, we get moved. And this thing I think we need to have, just like Jesus had, and the heart of compassion to talk to these people. And just like you said, prayer, you can pray from any part of the world. And prayer is like, it's faster than hyperloop. So or whatever, it's like, you just pray, it happens. That's how it works. And when you pray, and it makes a difference, and every prayer makes a difference. And I believe that you might not see like the exact outcome in the next couple of hours or days, but everything, every single prayer, small or big or whatever you pray, makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. And I think here's another thing. I know prayer sounded very huge oftentimes, and sometimes we don't have the compassion. And that's the truth of the matter, right?
Yeah.
And it could be as simple as us saying, God, break my heart for what breaks yours. And it starts from there, and God convicts us, breaks our heart, softens our heart towards things that He's passionate about, that He's longing for, that He loves. And I think that's a great place to start when it comes to prayer.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. But yeah, this is jump on to our next question onto leadership. And I think that's my favorite topic of all time that I want to talk to. And I think every person who has been on this podcast has always mentioned about leadership. And I think that's like the most important defining factor in a person's life. And so here's my question: how do we promote more younger generation people in leadership roles?
Uh, how do we promote them? I think it starts with the culture that we set, right? It starts with the culture we set, and I think it comes with a lot of humility. I'll tell you that. A couple of examples. I think I started in leadership when I was like 14, 15, somewhere there. It was tsunami. When tsunami hit Chennai, Tamil Nadu in 2004, 2005, I led a team of 300 people. Imagine somebody saying, hey, your 15 years old, but you can actually lead these people. It's a lot of risk. It's a lot of um, it, it's a lot of work. I'll give you this. But I think I've had those sources in my life who always trusted me, who walked with me, who was ready to take a fall for me. Even when I made a mistake, I had those people behind me. In other words, I had fathers and mothers who stood in the gap and said, "Go, and we are here." They didn't say, "Go, we'll be gone," but they said, "Go, but we are right behind you." And I think that's what it really takes when it comes to, be it a younger generation, be it women in leadership, all of that, that kind of a partnering. We miss that at work. We miss that in ministries. We miss that in the organizations. People who are willing to take a yes for us, people who are willing to take a beating for us, people who are willing to say go, and I will be there when there are those moments that you need us. I think even in the business world, I didn't have much of a business background before I got here. Yes, I do have a business background, but I was not involved with businesses hands on in the past. But I always had these people, once I got into business, who were willing to teach me, train me at different levels, and said, "This is how you do it. If you've never done sales before, here is your manifesto. I'll be with you." Months and months, even when I didn't get it, coming with that kind of um, humility, where they never said, "I know better," but instead they always said, "It's okay. You can pick it up. It's okay. You'll get there." And they were patient in that season. I think that's what it really takes when we are looking at promoting a generation that we're not used to. We're often used to experienced people. We're often used to a specific stereotype of people that can do the job better. But oftentimes, when you're promoting another segment of people, be it age factor, like people at their very young teens and college grads, or we're looking at women, all of that, any new segments that we are releasing into our environment takes a lot of those patience and conversations, and really putting one-on-one together and having those mentor roles and saying, "Go, and here we are supporting, um, cheering you on, and willing to stand back and say, take it away." I think there are very few people who are willing to take chances on you, um, and we need more of them.
I think that's very true because yeah, I mean, because in our culture, and I basically see that in my workplace or in almost everything that we do, we see like uh, younger people are very hard to be trusted with leadership. That's what older guys think. I mean, at least some people think. So, but still, like that trust factor. What you just said. People trust you. Okay, I think you're capable of this. You need to do this.
Yeah,
That I think makes the whole difference to the whole thing that you're doing, because
yeah,
I think you need people who trust you, and because if people cannot trust you, and how can they if people don't trust you, how can they give you a role of leadership, or something like that, or responsibility? And I think the basic of leadership, or the basis of everything that leadership is built around, is trust. And unless and until you don't trust people, I don't think you can actually see them expand or explore into the leadership of the potential that person has. And what I mean, it's like what he was like saying, how you were like 15 years old, you led a team of 300 people. It's like it's crazy. I mean, if you talk to a 15-year-old, and then take a random 15-year-old and ask them, okay, do you want to lead 300 people? And they'd be like, what, are you nuts? That would be the first thing they would be saying. But I think you handle it very well, and I think that is because I mean, I really believe that trust is mutual, because and if a senior leader is handing out something to you, they believe that you are capable of it, and also
yeah,
you also always know that the senior leader is there to back you up. And I think that is like, it's kind of like a mutual thing, and that's what holds it together, the relationship stronger and the leadership stronger.
absolutely, absolutely.
Cool. And also, let's just jump into our next question. And this, since you're leading a marketing firm, and I've had a couple of people who I know very personally who lead marketing firms, and I know how challenging that is, because sometimes you have angry customers, and sometimes you have people like who get mad at what you do, and they talk about the analytics and all the results and everything. And it's surprisingly challenging to lead a marketing firm, and people think it's like easy. All you had to do is set some promotions and just market it. And I just want to see if you could touch base on how can if you could share your experiences on how the challenges in marketing firm in leading a marketing firm was, and your experiences in developing one.
I didn't develop the. I didn't start the company. I just became a very much later in the conversation. But I have the privilege of working with some phenomenal leaders in the company. People who founded the company, people who currently um, we're all in partnership. And I think the beauty of it is to know that we have a strong valued system that sets us in place, sets us in motion. I think there are some great challenges, right? Your faith gets shaken, your value system gets shaken. There's so much messaging that the world wants to hear, but you can't. There are so many ethical boundaries that you got to set yourself into. I think marketing is where one of those places where you can actually easily fake a lot of things, but learning to stick to the ground and say, if I can't, then I can't. If this is not something that I can do, then that's not something that I can do. Willing to let go, willing to stand your ground, building ethical practices and aligning ourselves with what we believe in were some things that I got to really um, watch and learn. And I think it was beautiful to see how a company was already built into that structure. And one of the things that we've of late have been really, really working around during COVID season is what and why do we do what we do? Because the company has evolved so much. And that led us to a very interesting place where we wanted to build noble brands, brands that stand for a cause, brands that stand for a specific voice, a specific purpose. And I think that's why we say we want to help noble brands grow and thrive. And that's pretty much what we do and why we do. Because I think the beauty of it is also to see nobody wants to do this just for money. I would not say money is not a factor at all. Yes, if you're not, then you shouldn't be in business. But money was not just it, and I think that's the beauty of being a part of this team that I get to do life with, that I get to build this out with. To know that we're all driving towards something that really leaves impact and change. It was not just by books, but by the stories that we've been seeing, things that we've been doing, the number of impacts that we've been um, able to make. And I think that's something that I enjoy doing. Did you ask for challenges of marketing? Is that what you
Yeah,
were asking?
definitely. Yep,
Uh,
that's something that everybody wants to know.
yeah, I think the challenges would be sticking to your gun, right? You can easily cut corners. You can easily make money, and I don't think we want to live by that principles. Learning to say no, even when you can make it, right? Learning to stand your ground on certain things that you believe in. I think those are some of the hardest choices that I've seen us make in the recent times, where we're like, we know this could help us a lot, but we're gonna stick to what we believe in and say no. And we reap the fruit of what we're doing. So that's definitely one of those biggest challenges in the marketing world.
Wow. I think we have a lot of people who are upcoming, probably listeners to this episode who wants to start their own marketing firms, and standing their ground and saying those things. And I think that's like two of the hardest things to do. I mean, I'm a person like, that saying no to people is like the hardest thing for me to do, because like, somebody asks me something, I'm like, yeah, I think I can do it. It's like, it's hard for me. And yeah, I think I should. Sometimes I think I should never be in business because I don't make it, because yeah. But I think saying no to people is like a very integral part of it, and it's also standing your ground, because you have to sometimes you got to say this is how it works, whether you like it or not. and you just have to say that, and that's going to be it's not gonna please everybody, but but yes, standing your ground and saying no, I think that's like a biggest challenge. But I think that is also the two most defining points in your life as well, in your business, because how you deal with these two scenarios is, I think, shapes your business.
Absolutely, absolutely, 100%. I think it's hard, but it bears truth in the right way, not the way man wants to see it, but in a kingdom way. I think um, that's how you want to do it.
Wow. That was amazing from amazing. So the amazing was just like talking all over a lot of amazing stuff. So yeah, I'm using the word amazing too many times. All
I
right.
I shouldn't be dinging a bell every time you say amazing.
No,
Times, and I'm like,
that word is actually particularly, I mean, I really love the word amazing. It's like, I think it defines a lot of stuff, I mean, in perspective to what God has done in my life, and what God is doing to my life. So I don't think if I can ever say anything, if somebody asked me like, what has God done in your life, and I would say, it's just amazing. That's the only thing that I can say. Because I don't think there is a word that is equal to it. And it's, I mean, and I think it's like a great thing to have a name like that also. So thank you so much, amazing, for being here on this podcast. It was such a pleasure to have you, to listen to your story on leadership, on leading marketing and doing business, and also from a ministry perspective. And I think a lot of people who hear this, I believe, is going to lead marketing firms someday, and I think that's going to make a lot of changes in the future. So, and thank you so much for being here. It was an absolute pleasure having you.
thank you so much for having me. It was a fun one. Thank you.
Yes. So, guys, if you guys are listening to this, all the links to Amazing and her blog, everything will be put up in the episode description. Do check her out, and do leave a message to her if you guys want to have any doubts on how to do marketing, on the tricks and trades. I think she's going to be really helpful for you guys. Maybe she can provide some real insight and stuff like that. So make sure you guys hit her up if you guys want to, and also stay tuned. Thank you so much for listening. Stay tuned to our next podcast, and I hope you guys have a great day ahead. Bye bye.